All right, guys, before we go to football, I want to remind you that this message is brought to you by Chewy. You've probably heard of Chewy. They really have everything you need for your pet to be happy and healthy. Whether you're shopping for food, treats, or even pet health care, Chewy makes it easy, fast, and affordable. With over 100,000 products from all your favorite brands, Chewy has everything your pet needs, from food and treats to toys, beds, and grooming. And it's not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds, fish, reptiles, and small pets too. Chewy makes it easy to manage your pet's health with prescriptions, telehealth visits, and in-person vet clinics rolling out nationwide. I know my family, we love how fast their delivery is. We order our cat food from there. Chewy's a great time. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in the description. Save $20 on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the description. Minimum purchases required, new customers only. Terms and conditions apply, and see site for complete details.
All right, guys, the Browns hosted Jaxson Dart on a top 30 visit yesterday. For what they're worth, Mike's obsessed with it, with mock drafts. Most people are obsessed, to be fair, with mock drafts. They have him going anywhere. We've seen some with him as high as 9, anywhere as low as the late first round. Kevin Stefanski traveled to Oxford for his pro day. And Daniel Jeremiah says the Browns have spent more time with Dart than any other team. Dustin, you've been interested in Jaxson Dart before. What do you think about him?
I have. I mean, listen, I think he's a really good player. He's an interesting prospect. I thought our interview with Greg Cosell was really good because he kind of clarified some of the things that I thought I knew about like that offense. And he really said that they do run a pro-style offense at Ole Miss. I just thought it was kind of like a run and gun, air raid type of offense. We're used to seeing a lot of these air raid quarterbacks come into the NFL and not have success, but he talked about the progressions that he has to go through and all these things. And so it makes me feel better about his ability to, diagnose and play the position. I think he's a very talented guy. I mean, played in the SEC at a high level, dude. Like when he was healthy, he was money.
So what's the negatives?
I don't think he's going to go number 2. I mean, the negatives?
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a reason nobody's talking about him at the top of the draft. Do we know what the reason is?
Well, I mean, he's not Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. I mean, in terms of the hype train, I do think that if he's that good, the Browns don't give a rip what everyone else says. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're trying to find the best player that's going to fit the quarterback position for the next 10 years. Go ahead, Mikey.
No, I was going to say when you're done, Dan Orlovsky talked about the good and the bad with him. We got a little clip of that. If you want to hear from Dan Orlovsky.
I mean, the bad, I can't say a ton of bad because I'm not breaking out every tape he has.
Where did Cosell have him ranked amongst the quarterbacks? I can't remember.
Hey, he was there with Milrow. I mean, like the third.
But he likes Shuck more than those guys, doesn't he?
He likes Cosell like Shuck
I think he
second,
had it Ward, then Shuck.
And then he had Sanders and Dart in that
tied
next.
To 3 and then Milrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what Dan Orlovsky of ESPN had to say, Anthony or Steve. Let's roll it.
Scouting report actually on him. Let's
touch screen. I'm a huge fan of Jaxson Dart. I think he's a top 10 pick. I think that when you watch his tape, I'm going to show you 2 clips. One clip I could sit here and point out to you guys, this is as good as it gets. This is against Florida, and I would sit here and go, this is number 1 pick of the draft type stuff. And in this game, he was sensational. And then I'll show you a clip, you go, dude, what the heck is this? This is late in the game, 1 score, we got a chance to go on the road and throw a game-tying touchdown, and probably the worst play this season. I want to bring it back to the first one, okay? So you're going to see the back go in motion, and what you're going to get is quarters defense by Florida. Quarters defense is a zone-centric defense, and everyone's got a responsibility on the defense, okay? You have a quarter of the field as the corner, you have a quarter of the field as the safety, and then this defender has that flat area, all right? And then the play concept is beautiful by the offensive Ole Miss. They're going to lift with the post. That takes that corner out, okay? And then you have a corner route by that receiver, and the read for the quarterback is just that defender. If that defender gets depth, remember that back that went in motion? We kick the ball to the back. If that defender gets nosy or plays the back at all, then we get the chance to throw that ideal corner route, okay? Everyone pay attention to Jaxson Dart because you're going to see him manipulate that defender. I want you guys to pay attention to what he does. You see how he quickly and subtly, eyes on him, you're going to see him quickly and subtly just peek to the sideline to get that defender to jump up and throw the corner in time. Watch his eyes in his head right now. bang, get that defender, and then look, that ball's coming out before the receivers, making his cut, and it's thrown absolutely perfect. This is as good as it gets. That's top 5 pick at that position, number 1 quarterback spot. And then you go late in the game, and you watch him play, and you go, that looks like a completely different person. Very similar concept. We're going to get double posts up to the side. And I go, well, protection is nice and clean. And you're going to watch, you're going to get lifted coverage where these guys are going to run their defenders off. And here comes this big crossing route, bang, Jaxson, make that throw. And you're going to watch a guy throw a ball and just completely into a team party where it's just forced. And you're going, how come you're throwing the ball with 4 defenders for Florida there instead of taking that wide open crosser route? I don't see you make those decisions consistently, not only in this game, but in the season. So there's one clip you sit there and go, if you're the Steelers, he ain't getting to 21. He's not going to when you watch him. And then you watch that late one. And if I was a team and I was bringing in Jaxson Dart for a visit or sitting down with him, that would be the one play I would want to watch first. Very first play would be the second play that I showed, the interception. And I would say, talk to me. Tell me what happened here, because this is not who you've been on tape.
A great breakdown from Dan Orlovsky there. I know you're a big fan there, Dustin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does a great job.
He finds the good balance of being too football in the weeds, but not being so basic.
He brings everybody in. I mean, like, I can watch him, and I know exactly what he's talking about, and he could be more technical, but he's fine. But he also makes it so that, like, the fans who don't really understand all the exercises get a feel for what he's talking about, which is a really tough thing to do in this business. So. Well done.
Yeah, Dan does a really good job. And Dan, if you ever want to come on the show, I'd love to have you. But Dan,
you can get him on anytime you want.
Let's get Orlovsky on, man. That's your next guest next week. Next Wednesday, we'll get Orlovsky on. No, he does a really good job, though. But in all seriousness, he talked about 2 things in that clip. A, manipulating the defense, which goes back to whether or not Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss offense translates to a pro-style offense, or is it too simplified? And Lane does such a good job of giving you the pre-snap read. You're looking right here. If this cornerback does this, you're throwing there. If he does that, you're throwing to this instead. And then 2 is the decision-making. And we did our quarterback breakdown series with Sean King earlier. The one, I don't want to say complaint he had about Jaxson Dart, but his one question mark with Jaxson Dart was, will he consistently make the right decisions and take what the defense gives him? Because sometimes, and you saw in that second clip, he wants the home run. And because he has the arm strength and the arm talent to make some of those throws, he plays a little loose with the football. And the interception numbers don't necessarily back that up. But when you go back and look through some of the decision-making process, even on plays that work, was it the right decision? Just because you can do it at Ole Miss against certain teams with inferior talent, can you get away with that at the NFL level? And that last throw that Dan broke down, the interception against Florida, came up in a few other games as well. So I think the one knock on him to the question earlier is he consistent enough with the right decision-making at the next level so that he doesn't put himself in disadvantageous situations?
And obviously that's a big part of being the great quarterbacks in the NFL are all good decision makers. You don't get to be the elite level if you make too many mistakes.
And Josh Allen, the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
He had taken his game to the next level. He's always good, but has become otherworldly quarterback God level good since he started cutting down on turnovers and being a little safe. Not completely safe. He still takes risks.
You can't be overly aggressive in the pressure moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't take risks when the game's on the line. Like, there's certain times where you can be a little bit more aggressive earlier in the game.
But down one score right there.
Like the situation there, the situational awareness of Jaxson Dart in that occasion is like, you can't throw that ball.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah, that was a terrible decision there.
But it's one play, and I would like to know, did he do that in other big games? Like, how consistent is that type of performance?
Right, because you could find a play like that for any quarterback.
100%.
Absolutely,
if you go through enough tape. The question is, when you watch all of it as someone like Dane Brugler or Greg Cosell or Dan Orlovsky or others do, how often are you seeing those mistakes? If it's too much,
is it glaring? Is it costing
corrected?
The team?
Yes.
Was he the reason why they didn't have success because of moments like that? Like, again, I don't know the answer to that, but I think if there was a lot of that, what we just saw, it's a big red flag.
Yeah, and you mentioned Josh Allen, who until this year his turnovers were a little high, but he's so uber talented that he could have higher turnovers than the average quarterback because he can make up for it. So the better you are, the more you can make up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're like Jaxson Dart's obviously talented, but he ain't Josh Allen level talent. No. And so he can't afford to make too many mistakes and still play at a high level. It's just not going to happen. So The question is, when you're the Browns or the Saints or the Steelers or wherever team's thinking about drafting Jaxson Dart, and you're saying you want the explanation. What is happening? What was going through your mind on this play? And is it, is that something that can even be fixed on a guy? Can you take that aggressiveness out of him without ruining his positives?
I would argue that his top 30 visit with the Cleveland Browns may be more important than any other top 30 visit with the quarterback they have, because of the questions whether or not Lane Kiffin's offense is so simplified that it makes a quarterback look good versus were there more NFL concepts that the common eye can see. And when you get a Jaxson Dart in the room for 8 hours, which I believe is the length of a top 30 visit, and you get to work on the whiteboard with him, and you get to see him diagram certain plays and read certain defenses and put him through different situations that may not occur in an Ole Miss film session because they just run a different offensive system, which was obviously successful for Lane Kiffin and Jaxson Dart at Ole Miss. Can he translate what he did at Ole Miss into a modern pro-style offense and do those concepts that he ran at Ole Miss so well? I mean, look at the numbers: 81 touchdowns, 27 picks in his career. I know it wasn't all at Ole Miss, but those numbers pretty damn impressive. Does that translate into how Stefanski wants to run his offense? And for Jaxson Dart in particular, he played in the shotgun his entire career.
Yeah.
USC
right.
and Ole Miss. They were very, very, very rarely under center.
Yeah.
It's a chance with Kevin
I think
Stefanski
all
and
the
company to
quarterbacks-
see if they can make that transition too.
I don't buy that the Jaxson Dart meeting is any more important than any of the other quarterback meetings because you don't really know. You can't. To me, if you draft a quarterback without spending a ton of time with him and talking to him, like I don't think the Browns spent much time with Johnny Manziel, if I remember correctly.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Which obviously was a huge mistake, and that's an extreme example because he's an all-time clown. But with all these quarterbacks, and even 8 hours is not really enough, but you have to have some sense of what the guy's made of. I think not enough is made of how much does this guy love football versus how much does this guy love getting paid. Obviously, everybody loves getting paid, but how much does he love playing versus how much is this just about the money?
Right.
Because the guy who is obsessed with football and has the talent is just going to be better. So I think all these interviews are really important. Getting to know the player, what he's made of, how coachable he is, how smart he is. These are things you can't learn from a test.
How many top 30 visits does each team get?
30.
Is it 30 top 30 visits?
30 players.
They've spent 5 already on quarterbacks. The 5 we know: Ward, Sanders, Tyler Shuck, who I said it right, shout out me, Jalen Milroe, and now Jaxson Dart. So at least a sixth of their official top 30 visits have been on the quarterback position.
That's why it's top 30 visits.
Yeah, I went on one of these.
A top 30?
To the Dolphins, yeah.
Was it a full day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, I was there with more than one player. There was like 10 of us there.
The Browns had Milroe, Shuck, and Dart here yesterday.
Yeah, so I was there with a bunch of guys. In fact, I'll remember this was kind of so Nick Saban was the coach.
Oh yeah.
For the Dolphins. So I spent like a whole day with Nick Saban.
That's pretty cool.
And I remember I had like he had meetings with all the players, and so like I walked into his office, and he's like sitting at his big desk, and it's just me and him for like 45 minutes. I was scared to death, man. I don't know why, but he was like the most intimidating guy. I mean, he was totally cool, and I had a connection because Mel Tucker was coached under him at Michigan State, and D'Antonio at Michigan State, and all that stuff. But no, it was pretty cool. And then it was later in the day. We went to this like swanky country club for dinner, and just it was Saban's country club, of course. Well, maybe the team paid for it. Who knows? Whatever. But it was really cool.
And that's where the love of tennis began.
I wish we began earlier than the last 5 years.
The seed was planted, man.
I forget where I heard this, but before the draft last year, and I forget which team, and I forget where I heard it, but it was on a podcast, and they're talking about the different philosophies in terms of these top 30 visits. Some teams like bringing in guys one at a time so they can get their entire undivided attention. Some guys like bringing in a bunch of guys at once and putting them through like silly competitions, ping pong, just to kind of get their competitive juices.
See how they interact with other guys.
And for the Browns, Sanders was on a solo, at least quarterback solo top 30 visit. Ward was a solo top 30 visit. Dart, Milroe, and Shuck. That is literally. I hope they don't draft him simply so I don't have to go through this mental dilemma every time I have to say his name. Those 3 were all here yesterday.
Yeah.
Do you put any weight into the fact that the first 2 at individual visits, these 2 were brought in together, and had a top 30 visit in collaboration. Bless you. Bless you.
God bless you.
Bless you.
I don't know. I mean, do we know what they've done in the past?
No.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I don't know.
But it's different. They did do Ward and Sanders. So although wasn't Hunter with Sanders?
Yeah, but I'm saying from a quarterback standpoint, that was a solo.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
That's what I mean. Just
if
something.
we read something into it, we're just speculating.
Right.
I guess that's what we do a lot of that. So
Yeah.
I guess that's fair. But I guess I don't read anything into that necessarily. As if they're more interested in the other guys because they spent maybe more.
I'm simply
solo
asking
time.
a question.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm just simply asking.
Yeah, it's interesting. To see what they do, but obviously, and just because they've met with these 5 guys doesn't mean they're going to even draft any of them.
No.
However, it's not hard to connect the dots and say, well, it seems like they're going to draft a quarterback at least by the second round because all the quarterbacks they've met with probably they'd have to draft by 33. I don't know that any of them would get to the 3rd round. I mean, who knows?
I'd be shocked.
Probably not.
When you look at the options to trade back up, let's say they get into the 20. Let's say they go to 20 just for the hypothetical to get in front of Pittsburgh. Do you have a preference on Dart, Milroe, and Shook? If those are the 3 that are there?
You're gonna make me say it wrong.
Jeez.
How many effing times?
It's
can you
Shock.
say it?
Because you told me how to say it,
Shock.
and then you started pronouncing
Shock.
it wrong.
When I say
Every time you think of his name, imagine you're
Shuck and
saying the
oyster.
F word
Yeah.
for the
Shock.
end.
Oh, okay. That actually might help.
Yeah.
That might help.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference on those 3 if those are the 3 options at 20?
Well, I like Milroe.
Milroe's still your
But-
guy.
Whatever. A lot of people don't like Milroe, and everyone called me a clown on Twitter. So whatever.
Well,
I'm
that
probably right.
I don't know.
'Cause most people on Twitter are wrong.
I'm a little worried about drafting a guy with a name spelled Jaxson. I mean, that's a little concerning.
Jaxson.
I was going to name my son Jackson, actually.
With an X?
With an X.
With the S or no S?
Yeah,
Jaxson.
it was top 3
Really?
for names.
Not
yeah.
Jackson?
Nope, JX. And I actually know
highbrow name.
I have a friend of mine has a son named Jackson, and it's with an X.
Jaxson.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
What is your son's name? I know.
Tatum.
Tatum. Okay. Tatum
After
versus
Jack
Jackson.
Tatum.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no,
I like Dart for the record.
You like Dart.
I-
Dart's your choice?
It is a cool name though. Jaxson Dart sounds cool.
I do. Of those 3,
It sounds like a quarterback name.
Oh yeah.
of those 3, I do think I lean more towards Jaxson Dart over the other 2. Milroe, more of a project. I totally understand the appeal of
Who's the
Milroe.
quarterback from Louisville?
Shuck.
Ah,
And
you
I did.
thought of the word.
I thought of the word that I can't say on here.